Nate was sumo wrestling today. He went sumo wrestling. And he survived. Right. Did you wear the thing with your... You didn't wear the thing? Yeah, that's bullshit.
Welcome back to Foo's Files, the podcast for fans of the Foo Fighters. It's Dan here, and thanks for joining us for episode 31. It's all going on, isn't it? Song announcements, tour teasers, social media teasers. So it looks like there's going to be plenty coming out of the Foo Fighters camp imminently. What we do know is that on Thursday, we're getting a new song, Asking for a Friend. Just before I came on to record this, actually, as if by magic, they dropped a short clip on the socials. It's got a nice big chunky guitar riff, which suggests a heavier direction than the last couple of records, which I know fans have been yearning for a little bit. We don't know too much else yet, other than the artwork. It's got individual mono images of each band member on, which are Andy K. Taylor's photos. Andy actually confirmed that on an Instagram post saying, "Dream come true, doesn't even begin to cover it." So roll on tomorrow, 3 p.m. here in the UK, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, and we get to hear the whole thing, so that's pretty exciting. And then, as well as that, it looks like there's an announcement imminent regarding some North American stadium shows for next summer. There have been posts from 3 venues in Canada and another 4 Ford Field in Michigan. The one that stood out, which was really cool, was the Vancouver Whitecaps football or soccer jerseys, whatever you like to call it, which was really cool. Had each band member's name on the back of the jerseys, and then the numbers spelling out Thursday's date, which suggests they're coming to their stadium, BC Place. So lots to keep an eye out for. Ironically, with this week's episode, we're actually going to jump back a couple of weeks in time because I did promise we'd round up the series of dates in Japan, and I've finally had a chance to catch up with our friend on the ground over there, Mike Miller from California, who went over for all 3 shows, the 2 in Tokyo and 1 in Kobe. Mike and I caught up on Monday just after we'd actually had another Foos announcement that they're doing a live show for the Amazon Music live series next Thursday, somewhere in Hollywood. We don't know yet. Anyway, just before we were about to start our call, Mike was hoping to secure tickets for that one too. And then, of course, there was the global outage on Monday that affected a number of systems, including Amazon. So the whole ticket process was pushed back. I haven't managed to catch up with him yet, but hopefully Mike and a few of our other listeners in that part of the world were able to get tickets. So fingers crossed if you were one of those trying. But anyway, here's my chat with Mike about the Foo Fighters October mini tour of Japan.
Every night we played this next song, I dedicate it to someone or something. So I think maybe tonight, I'm going to dedicate this one to all of the bands from Japan that I really, really love over the years. Yes.
Mike, welcome back to the podcast. It's good to chat to you. We're weird to talk about Japan, but I was hoping hot off the presses you'd have some news for me about getting tickets for this Amazon live show in LA that's popped up today, but no cigar at the moment.
Not yet. The goalposts keep getting pushed back, so we'll see what happens.
Hopefully then this time in 24 hours you'll have some good news, so good luck with that one. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so Japan, where do we start? Sounds like an amazing trip, 3 really great shows. Where do you want to start with it all?
Well, I think I have to start with a kind of a unique situation. I was actually supposed to go to Japan for something else in 2024, but I ended up having to push back my trip. And so then it was kind of like, it just felt like it was fate, because then they announced the 3 shows in Japan. I'm like, man, it would be so great if I could just kind of, because I had a flight credit, and I'm like, well, let's just see if we can't just push this back, and it worked out. And like I said, I'd always wanted to go to Japan anyway. I've never been, and so it was a perfect opportunity, and I was like, I just, I mean, not to jump too far ahead, but I mean, it was, I'm a little bit older now. I'm in my 50s, and it was one of the most amazing times of my life, with Japan and the concerts.
Sure. So let's start with Tokyo night one. Then tell us about how the day and the build up and everything.
Yeah, I got into Tokyo a little bit early, so I'd kind of, already adjusted and was ready to go. And so that first night at Saitama, so both nights I was actually kind of in the same area. I was elevated in the second section at the top, but I was kind of side view. So overall, it was a great experience. And I have to say this, Dan, it probably was the concerts that I watched the band the least, because the fans there were amazing. They were so into the shows. It was great.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, the venue and the atmosphere, because I've seen clips and the singing and everything. It was just seemed so loud, and the interaction, like the shows in Singapore and Jakarta that they've just done. It seems like Dave spoke to the crowd a lot more than these ones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a little, honestly, I would say in the three Japan shows, I think he talked a little less than he would normally. That's just my take on it from my experience of the shows. Um, and then like the band introductions have changed. I'm not sure how they were in the like in the LA shows, and the East Coast shows, but um, Chris did a solo one of them, I think two of the nights when he introduced him, but the other members of the band, it was just kind of a little back and forth, but no, like usually like on the last tour they were played, Nate would play a little bass. He plays Sabotage, and but there was none of that on this one. So it was a little different, but that's fine. Just let's get back to the music.
yeah. The general consensus, I think, from the small shows in the US was that they did a bit less of that, so they could pack more songs in, which everybody was quite happy about.
Yeah, and that takes me to the next piece that as far as like what I noticed from the shows. So I mean, you've been to shows, and I've been to a few shows, and like they're packing as much as they can into these shows most of the time. I mean, 2.5 hours easy. I know sometimes Dave stretches it and says they're playing for 3 hours, but they really kind of play for like 2:45. But that's fine. But yeah, all three of these shows were almost exactly 2 hours. And I'm not sure. I asked a few fans that were there. I was lucky enough to just meet some amazing fans from Japan. It was like, and we were just chatting about everything, and just kind of talking about how it was. And like there was a little talk that there was nothing officially announced, but it felt like there was not really a curfew, but you know they kind of get done at 10 to allow people to get home to wherever they're going on the trains, because the trains stop at midnight. So or maybe one, but I'm pretty sure it was 12. But there's, I didn't see an official number on attendance. Dan, did you, as far as what the numbers were in Saitama?
I didn't actually know.
I was reading that the concert venue there, the Saitama Super Arena, was around 25,000, and they were sold out the first night, and then the second night they were not sold out, and they actually closed down like a section at the back the second night, which I thought was a little interesting. But it was just as packed as they could be that first night, and then the second night it was still a great crowd. It was, and when I say the back section was closed off, that would not be a back section that you would see at a US or UK arena. It was a much smaller, almost like a suite level. But yeah, it was, man, I don't want to say, hey, these are the best fans, but man, they put it up there. Like they were into it, because they had not played a solo show or a touring show there since like 2008. They played a few festivals, but not a solo show. So it was definitely interesting to just see how people were just so into seeing the songs that maybe they wouldn't normally see. Because I mean, on a festival, it could be anywhere from an hour, hour and a half. They're not probably playing 2 hours though.
I saw the clip when they referenced that, and I was quite surprised actually, because I know they've done Fuji Rock Festival
Yeah.
quite a few times. He mentioned, didn't he, that they played the first ever Fuji Rock Festival. That really surprised me that it's been that long since they've been and done a standalone Japan show, because I don't know, it just always seems like Japan's a regular place on a world tour to me, but obviously it's passed them by for whatever reasons.
Well, the interesting thing was, so when the first 2 nights at Saitama, it's like after the first night, you kind of know what to expect for the second night, right? Like, they did mix up the songs a little bit. There was, they did play Breakout for the first time in a while. I think they played it in one of the shows too.
I think it was I think it was the Kobe. They played Breakout.
They played Breakout in Kobe, and but I think they maybe play it once in the small shows. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I thought that was the first time they played it, like the full version of it, in a long time. Because they say that because there were a lot of times where like they would play like a snippet of it in certain shows. I'd seen it a couple of times, but so they had openers on the first 2 nights at Saitama, and they played the 2 hours. So it's like, okay, well, this is what got my mind kind of rolling with it, was that so you got your opener the first night, and same kind of thing the next night. And there were a couple of things that were a little different about these shows. Usually, especially here, when they were doing shows where there was an opener, like, okay, so and so's at 7 o'clock, Foo Fighters are at 8 o'clock, and it's pretty tight on that. But there, it was a little different. But they did go on right about 8 o'clock both nights. So, but then we go to Kobe, the G Lion Arena, and that's a very nice venue. It's a very, very new arena. They play basketball in there now, in Kobe. And that was a solo show. There was no opener at that show. So I was kind of getting a little excited, because I'm like, okay, well, they had to kind of cut it a little bit shorter because they had the opener, with whatever the timing was there. But when in Kobe, they were like, okay, well, there's no opener, so man, maybe we're gonna get this 3-hour show. Maybe we're gonna get at least 2.5 hours. And then 7 o'clock rolls around, and and like I said, this last tour, I mean, every time I've seen them on this last tour, it's been pretty close to like time of concert, like 7:05 at the latest usually, right? And then 7:05 hits, 7:10 hits, and it's like, oh shoot. And then I think somebody on one of the set lists said it would start at 7:20. I think it was somewhere in between 7:15 and 7:20. But again, they played for almost exactly 2 hours. And I was really bummed, because I had seen a little preview of the set list, and one of my favorite songs is Low, and I have not seen them play that in a while, and they had ended up cutting it, and you could see. So I had a chance to see the set list before the show, and right before they were supposed to play Low, you could see Dave walk over and kind of whisper into Pat's ear, and they kind of changed it up. So bummer, but they played, I think on the Saitama shows, I think they played 19 songs. I think in Kobe they played 20. So we got a little extra, but still.
Yeah, I said, in terms of the set lists, can't remember them entirely off the top of my head, but it feels like all the songs that they pulled out in the small sort of pop-up shows, you got a bit of a mix and match of those, didn't you, across the three? So you had White Limo and Exhausted coming in for one, and then not for the next. Then you say you got Breakout in Kobe, so you got a bit of a mix and match of those shows, didn't you?
That's exactly what I was thinking when especially when we got to that third night and we got Breakout, because like when they used to end the shows with Exhausted, and he mentions that in the shows. But so I think on this, whatever this next evolution of the tour, and the concerts are going to be, I'm pretty sure that's going to be in there for at least for this next tour, I would imagine. But it's a really strange situation, Dan, because with the way that these shows were set up, I don't know if you saw any of the merch, like the t-shirts and stuff. So it's kind of like a continuation of the 24 tour, the everything or nothing at all imagery on the t-shirts and kind of that kind of stuff. And obviously everything and nothing at all is a reference to a song on the album, the newest album. And I talked to several of the fans that I met there, and they were all really bummed that they didn't get anything from the new album. And I noticed that obviously immediately, because I do love, the new album is one of my favorites. And I was bummed that they didn't play anything from it, even like, because I know Dave seems to love The Teacher. They were, because they were playing that in the encores for a long time.
That's the one I thought actually might get a sort of stay of execution because it's so different to anything else they've got, and
Right.
would love to hear Ilan have a crack at it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, as you say, I mean, we've all had the chance to hear it, but the fans in that part of the world haven't. So yeah, maybe they might have got a bit more.
No, because that album I think is more popular there than maybe they even thought. Because like I said, there almost every I probably talked to at least 10 to 20, I'd say 10 to 15 fans at the shows, or going into the shows, or on a train with somebody with a Foo Fighters shirt or whatever. And it was definitely a point of frustration for them. They were happy obviously to see him, but yeah, they love this new album. They never had a chance to see these songs. But again, on a solo situation, they haven't seen anything since 2008, so anything post is fine.
Do you know what, as well? It's the problem when you've got to follow a band that's got this many albums. We've all got stuff that we would absolutely love to hear, haven't we? And
oh my God, yes.
yeah,
I've been so blessed, Dan, because I've seen them a number of times, and he mentioned it. They've got over 150 songs, and it's like, man, I mean, it's very, there's a very big volume to what they have, and on that last tour, I was blessed because, like, obviously they're always going to play the main songs. They're always going to play, Pretender, All My Life, Everlong's going to end the show. Like, I mean, we can go on and on about the songs that are always going to be played, right? But like, two of my favorite songs, I would say, that are in my top 5 of all time are Stacked Actors and Arlandria. And that last tour, they were playing both of those songs on that show, and it's like, on these shows, and I'm like, man, it was just, it was so amazing to be able to see, especially when those are not like, I mean, they're fairly popular songs. I think somebody posted a list on Reddit a while back of the top like 40 songs that are played on Spotify, and there was, a couple. I think Stacked Actors and Arlandria might have been like lower on the list, but they're on the list, so they're, people like those songs, but like, I mean, you have this kind of tunnel vision when you're in your own fandom, right? I'm sure you do. Like, what are your like couple of favorites that are not like the main songs?
so see the set list as it is at the moment is, I'm really jealous, or the kind of different variations of it, because like you, I love Stacked Actors. And I don't think I've seen them do it since Wembley in 2008, which was a really mega version of it as well.
Oh, I bet.
There's a few Concrete and Gold songs that I absolutely love. I love The Line. That's a real sort of favorite of mine. That's one that I don't, but yeah, there's loads. But I'm really jealous of Exhausted and Alone and Easy Target that have been played over the last few months. So I'd absolutely love to hear those.
We didn't get Alone on these 3 shows, but that's one of my absolute favorites. But yeah, it's so funny because you're sitting there, you're kind of as you've been to many shows. I've been to several shows, and it's like when you kind of know what's coming in a way, but every once in a while, like the Kobe show started off differently. Because they started the first two shows with enough space, and they didn't start the third show with that. So like I'm like, okay, well now we've got something a little different.
Yeah, sure. Going back to Tokyo, you mentioned the opening acts. Did you see either of them? Otoboki Beaver and Maximum the Hormone. Did you see
I
either?
did. I was there. I was there early for both shows, and um, they were definitely different. As I mentioned, I talked to a lot of. I didn't specifically do a survey, but I did talk to a lot of people just because it was fun. This is a random side note, but I ran into a person at the show who there's something here called the Future Farmers of America. It's like an agricultural thing that's in our schools in California, and there's so Future Farmers of America, and like sometimes it's people growing crops, sometimes it's people like raising like animals, and I'm walking by and I did like a double take because I'm like I saw a guy wearing a Future Farmers of America jacket, and um it was from a town that's literally like 10 miles from me. And I was like, holy crap, this is amazing. And so I went up to him and we actually took a picture. It was fun. And I sent it to my friend who was in Future Farmers of America, FFA, and he freaked out. He was like, what is this guy doing? And I talked to him, and it was like, it turns out he bought it at a thrift shop there. But it's like, it's just so funny, like some of these things that happen. But anyway, back to the Bieber band and Hormone. So the consensus that I got was that the folks there, and I think they're still kind of up and coming, but the Beaver band was not super popular with the fans that I talked to. But like I said, I think I looked at their Spotify. I listened to some of their songs. They're definitely kind of they're a little screamy, but so I think their like monthly listens are in like the 60,000-70,000 on Spotify. Um, and I think the crowd was into them a little bit. It was like obviously the first band comes out and you kind of get a little excited, and then the Maximum Hormone, they were a little bit for me reminiscent of System of a Down.
Okay.
Um, and they are a lot more popular there. And so there were some, I mean, like some of the fans I talked to were very, very into them. So, but they were very good.
That's interesting because when they were announced on I don't know if you remember, there was that announcement video, and I think it was Dave writing them on a wall.
Yes.
Yeah. And if you, in the comments on the Foo Fighters channels underneath that video, there were quite a few people, I don't know where they were from, but were saying, yeah, the Otoboki Beaver, they're great and people are going to love them. So there are obviously people out there with some, and it's a small sample size, but there are people out there with knowledge of them who thought they were great. On the flip side, I did see a few Japanese fans kind of going, oh, we wish, because it's the Foo Fighters in the UK,
Right.
US or whatever, they have a, quite a decent name sort of support band with them. And they're sort of saying, oh, wish you could have bought like the Hives or somebody over with you did in the US. So I kind of get both of those, but if they're giving local up and coming bands, so to speak, a bit of a leg up, then that's great, really, isn't it? So
yeah, I think that's a great point, Dan. I think that when you're with when you can bring in local bands and they're good bands, I mean that's the same thing they kind of did in Australia. I think they did some they brought in some maybe an Australian or New Zealand band.
Dave did mention, didn't he, on night one, about the Japanese bands he's played with over the years, including like he's in Nirvana, which was obviously popular with the audience when he did that. So
yeah, I think he dedicated My Hero to all the bands, the Japanese bands that they played with.
Yeah, good stuff. Any other particular highlights? I guess from how far is it from Tokyo down to Kobe? Then is it one of those bullet trains that you've had?
It was a bullet train. Yeah, I think it was a couple hours on the bullet train, and that was like a crazy experience in and of itself. But I'd never been on one of those, so I was very excited, and But yeah, it was yeah, there was a big difference, and also that was the other thing I was going to mention, Dan, is that the G-Lion arena is much smaller than Saitama. For this concert, and I don't know how many. I know it's sold out pretty early, and they did not obviously add a second show, but I felt like they could have done another night for sure, because that place was packed and rocking, and it was over. I think that's a smaller arena too. I think that one's in the 10 to 13 range, 10,000 range.
Excellent. Was much of a difference in atmosphere between the two cities, did you find, or?
Well, I think you have volume when in the super arena, like, because there's just more people, right? But I mean the the uh the into it was about the same in both places.
Excellent. Any other particular highlights that you think are worth kind of?
I it's for me, it's like, man, I just, that's like my, going to a Foo Fighter show is like, it's my happy place in life, right? Like, it's just one of those things where just, yeah, everything kind of goes away for a couple hours, and you just get to hear these amazing musicians and people, and it's great. And so, um it's so funny though, because I've seen them a number of times now, and watching these shows and listening, and you're like, oh, did they change that a little bit? Because I think honestly, um, he changed the way he sings "Learn to Fly" on these shows. I'm assuming, in general, like in the little the chorus part, but the "Fly Along with Me" part is a little different than on the last tour. But just things that I kind of noticed, and maybe it's like it's not even real, but it's something that I felt I noticed. So I go with it, right?
No, absolutely. When you've been to a few shows over the years, you do notice the evolution or the little
Yeah,
nuances, don't you, of the songs? So yeah,
yeah, exactly.
excellent. Well, hopefully you'll get to see them a bit closer to home in a week or so. So
Oh man, that
yeah,
would be amazing.
let's see what the consensus is with this Amazon live stream, because not a
Yeah,
lot of people seem to have any clue about where it's going to be, what the format's going to be, what type of
right,
view it's going to be. So no intel at whatsoever at the moment, right? So
right. Yeah, so I like it, and it's kind of like the pop up shows. You just kind of, situational, right? Like I was so just gutted that I couldn't do the two shows in California. Just one was a work related thing, and the other was just a timing thing because they announced it so quick.
well, best of luck anyway, trying to get tickets
Yeah,
when they eventually go on sale. So, and yeah, thanks for sharing your Japan story with us as well.
absolutely, Dan. It's such a pleasure, and thanks for what you're doing in the pod community. Appreciate you.
You probably can't see him because nobody ever sees him. He's like a ghost. He's like a legend. He's like a mystery. But if you could poke your head up a little bit and look at that guy in the mustard-colored shirt, that's John Silva. He's managed Nirvana, Sonic Youth, Beck, the Beastie Boys, St. Vincent, all of your favorite bands. But the cool thing that I have in common with John is that I've only had one manager for 35 years, and he's only had one Foo Fighters for 30 years. So tonight, everybody, it's John Silva's birthday, so say, Happy birthday, John!
That was Mike Miller from California sharing his experience of following the Foos in Japan this month. So a big thank you to him. And if you were wondering about the clip that I dropped in just there, if you hadn't heard already, on night one in Tokyo, it was the birthday of the band's longtime manager, John Silver. So Dave made that known to the crowd, and he was duly serenaded, of course. So that's it for this week. It looks like we're going to have lots to talk about on next week's episode. So if you want to share your thoughts with me on the new song, either in a voice note or just in a text message and I can read it out, then do get in touch at foosfilespod@gmail.com, or you can DM me on Instagram too, at foosfilespod. Thank you for listening to Foos Files. Enjoy release day, and I'll see you next week.